Here's Prescott, just throws it deep as far as his arm can take him. He caught it!
Micah Parsons on the move. Micah Parsons is in! Welcome to the big show, Tony Pollard.
Oh, going deep, it is intercepted.
But I'm not going to say a word, but I will say one thing right now.
Prescott, touchdown. Good protection, and the pass wide open. Touchdown, Lamb.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today. And we got to talk about the latest preseason game that just finished up between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this was a late one. I know a lot of people weren't pleased, especially since it was on the West Coast. It started at 10 o'clock Eastern. I really didn't care. I'm going to be up late anyway editing this video, and you're going to get this as soon as the game is finished up, so I digress. But we got to talk about what happened in this preseason game because there was a lot of good, there was some bad, and some injuries that took place, and we need to figure out where we're going to be moving forward. Now, before we get fully into this video, if you guys could do me a favor, please hit the like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. It helps support the channel. Fights against the YouTube algorithm, which we're trying to do, get back into the rhythm of things, so please hit that like button. Thank you so much for your support. Next, if you're new around here, why don't you stick around for more content? If you love Dallas Cowboys stuff or you keep coming back and watching it, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Over 92% of you guys watching are not subscribed, so if you keep coming around and you love what you're seeing, I don't see a reason why you should not be subscribed, but you don't have to. But if you do like what you're seeing, by all means subscribe. Now, with all the shameless plugs out of the way, we need to talk about with what happened in this preseason game. So I first wanted to focus on the first half because there was a lot of good stuff that happened in that first half and some notable things that I think we should be aware of. First, starting on the offensive side of the ball, Jalen Tolbert is him. He has been on a tear through training camp, in the preseason, and he's just been great. You know, in the first half, 66 yards, making all these catches. He did have a drop, but he looked really good, and I think that not having all that pressure on him really helped him, number one. But number two, the removal of the option routes really assisted him with getting comfortable. So that's great to see on that end. Also, we got to talk about Rico Dowdle because I really do think that Rico Dowdle could push Malik Davis off the roster. I've been talking about it. If you've been following me and been subscribed and you watch the videos as they come out, you know that I do believe Rico Dowdle is a better running back than Malik Davis. And that's no insult to Malik Davis. I just think that Rico Dowdle is more talented. The only reason he hasn't been able to be on the roster is because he's been hurt. But with that out of the way, I do think that he is making a serious case for running back 2 right with Deuce Vaughn, okay? And I think that given the situation, the Cowboys might have a tough decision to make. Now, the offensive line play is a bit worrisome. I think a lot of us were trying to see if the Cowboys had something in Matt Waletzko because they really love Matt Waletzko, and he just did not look good at all on that right side. I don't know what's going on. He did leave the game early with the shoulder injury. There was a thing. I'm not entirely sure. I saw something from Michael Gelkin where basically it's like he re-aggravated the same shoulder he got surgery on. I don't know the validity of that. I only just saw the glimpse. But he just didn't look good. He didn't look comfortable. And I understand that we were going up against the Seattle 1s and then eventually the 2s. But it just felt like, you know, dude, like we needed to see a lot from you, and not because we want him to be a starter. It's that it's really feeling like the Cowboys are going to be SOL. God forbid someone goes down on the starting offensive line. Another guy that I first need to give praise to before moving on to this other individual, Asim Richards looks really solid, all things considered, and I think that, you know, given his flex, I think the Cowboys do have a solid backup option for him, and as long as he continues to prove himself, I think we'll be fine. And then as for Hoffman, not the best. I think that the Cowboys really have a problem after the starting offensive line, and I think that they just need to pray to God that no one goes down for a long period of time. And that's why I said in my latest video, if you didn't see it, hey, you know, you got a guy in Jason Peters that doesn't want to retire yet. I'm not saying he needs to be a starter because we all know what happened last year with him. You know, he can only play so much, but I'm just saying, like, if you needed him for a game, I think he can hold up a little bit. But I digress. I think the offensive line had its moments where they blocked well, but a lot of the times they just didn't look up to par, and I'm a bit worried about the offensive line depth. Another guy that I wanted to give a shout out to was Kevontae Turpin. He made a couple plays as a wide receiver, not as a return specialist, and I think that overall I like seeing that because I think if they really, really, really want to make this offense pop, they need to get him involved. And I think the way that they were, you know, again, it's vanilla, but the way they were running the offense was pretty good, and I didn't really have a problem. Cooper Rush looks fine. Will Grier took a step back in the first half, that was. Now, as for the defensive side of the ball in that first half, there were a lot of gaffes that I didn't really feel comfortable with. The first, Mazi Smith. I know there's a lot of eyes on him, and I know I put a video out where I was like, listen, this dude's been doing very well at camp, and we got to remember, being in camp and a live game setting are two completely separate things. I understand it is preseason, but from the first game to the second game, he's still having issues getting off the snap quick, and I think that's something he can work on. But I am worried about that a tad bit as we move closer to the regular season. That's the first big thing I noticed. He was getting beat pretty bad during the start, and even into the second quarter, he really, again, didn't really look like he adjusted as time went on. But as for a couple other things, I saw Eric Scott Jr., he got beat by JSN. That wasn't fun. And the biggest thing that came out was DeMarvin Overshown. There is a rumor that he has torn his left ACL. We have yet to receive confirmation, but if that's the case, he's done for the year, and that's a huge blow to this linebacker core, and especially him, you know, being a young guy. I think he can recover quickly. I'm not saying he's definitely going to come back this year. Absolutely not. But that's really bad. Really, really bad, because we remember what happened with Jabril Cox and that whole situation, and it sucks. It really does, but that's just football for you. Another thing when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, really, Sam Williams, man. Sam Williams just, I am really excited to see what Sam Williams can do in the regular season, because he just did amazing versus the Seattle ones, even versus the Seattle twos. I think that he's going to be that dude as long as everything goes fine with him. In terms of anything else, you know, you did have Thomas have the taunting call that led to a touchdown drive, but again, you can't be doing that. But overall, it was pretty up and down with the Cowboys defense, and I think that the biggest blow that they had was they did lose DeMarvin Overshown, and I'm just really concerned how things are going to go there. Again, do they go out and get a linebacker? You know, you got a guy like Deion Jones out there. I still believe, I could be wrong, you're going to most likely need to bolster that linebacking core unless you're going to, you know, roll with a guy like Jabril Cox and all those other dudes. I've seen enough of Damone Clark. I think he's fine, and this is exactly why I'm a bit, you know, okay, when I've seen enough, I don't need to play you. But, hey, stuff happens. Now, with all that out of the way, let's move on to the second half to talk about some things that I noticed. But again, we're more concerned about that first half. Now, as for the second half, there are a couple things I did want to talk about, but otherwise, aside from those particular things, there really wasn't a whole lot for me to be like, oh my God, this moved the needle. The first thing that came to mind was Deuce Vaughn, man. This guy continues to make plays. I cannot wait to see what he can do in the regular season. That's the first thing. And also, we don't need to see any more in the preseason. Just we've seen enough. And I think that, you know, if all things were really good, I think that they should have tried to play Deuce Vaughn in the beginning of the game so that we can see how he runs with the twos. and not just a bunch of backups out there. That's just my personal opinion. Another thing is, John Stevens Jr., man, I was really hyped for this guy. We talked about him in the previous video. Suffered a knee injury. Now, we don't know the severity of the knee injury. Once we get that information, we'll talk about it. But that sucks, man. He suffered it on the first drive of the second half. And again, while we don't know the severity of the injury, I don't know if that's going to put his roster spot in jeopardy, him making that case. But, otherwise, he had a lot of momentum, and, moving with what we've seen, it looked like he was outplaying Peyton Hendershot. And then another thing, talking about tight ends, I think Luke Schoonmaker's been working his way back quite nicely. Just seeing how he was catching passes, run blocking, you name it. It really looks like he's going to be a fun addition to that tight end room. And Jesus, that dude's huge as hell. Like, what is he, like 6'5", 6'6", or some shit? Like, like, oh my God. But that out of the way, the offensive line, look, it's getting kind of hard to evaluate, Deuce Vaughn and company because of how this offensive line is played and how they've been run blocking. But, again, that kind of just goes back to my previous point about the first half. It just feels like the Cowboys need to add a little bit more there. And I mean, that was pretty much it. I didn't really have anything else to say other than, hey, you had the same stuff from the previous preseason game kind of carry over, except for John Stevens Jr. getting injured and not, continuing to show up and show out. But I don't really have much more to say, guys. It was a later game, and I don't really try to put too much thought into the preseason because it is the preseason, and this is when you just experiment and you see what kind of stuff you got. But that's where we'll leave it. So with that being said, guys, please tell me what you thought about the game down below and just your overall thoughts. Please make sure to leave a like before you do so. Subscribe if you're new and hit that notification bell. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. All right, guys, have a good one. Goodbye.